Malcolm said he would marry me when he becomes a Triple Crown winner. For this reason, I used all my resources to support him. But on the day he won his third Best Actor award, he hugged another girl and coaxed her softly. "Don't worry, I will definitely not abandon you." I silently put away all my love and gradually erased my presence in his life. Later, his career plummeted, and I became a shining star. 1. On the day Malcolm won his third Best Actor award, I rushed to the award ceremony. But the ceremony had already ended. The magnificent banquet hall was brightly lit, shining on the huge poster beside it, reflecting colorful light, casting mottled spots on the smooth mirror-like floor. Shadows flickered, dresses and hairpins shone, and laughter was endless. The camel coat on my body seemed out of place here. I tightened my coat, the bag in my hand containing sobering medicine and stomach medicine. I raised my hand again and gathered the long hair on the right side, then stepped towards the corner closest to the podium. Malcolm was wearing a black suit. His slender figure and dignified, cold temperament were particularly eye-catching in the crowd, so that I found his position at a glance. "Malcolm," the voice had just come out when it was drowned out by the questions from the reporters, who surged up behind me. I was also squeezed out of Malcolm's 3 meters away. Malcolm, who was surrounded by the stars, naturally didn't hear it. I moved awkwardly to a dimly lit corner, watching Malcolm take the beautiful girl in the white tube-top dress beside him, dealing with the various questions raised by reporters with ease. Best Actor Malcolm, who is the person you want to thank most for getting to where you are today? Malcolm thanked all the staff he worked with according to the process. The director, the producer, the stage manager, the actors in the rival plays, and even the assistant were all taken care of. But he never mentioned me. My heart ached inexplicably. My hand involuntarily touched the inconspicuous small diamond ring on my ring finger. After the interview, I composed myself and just raised my foot to go over. I heard Malcolm's friend beside him teasing, "Best Actor Malcolm, the person you want to thank most should be Uma." Malcolm's smile narrowed slightly, and a trace of impatience and struggle flashed in his eyes. Soon recovered as usual. "I will marry her." One sentence made me suddenly clench my palm. The diamond rubbed against the soft skin of my palm, causing a slight pain. The beautiful girl who was holding him tightly immediately pouted unhappily. "What about me, Malcolm?" The tone was full of grievance and resentment. "If you marry her, what should I do? You clearly said you loved me most last night." The men then laughed. "Best Actor Malcolm's marriage to Uma is out of responsibility, so don't worry at all. The one he loves most must still be you." "Malcolm, is that so? You clearly don't love her, so why do you wrong yourself?" The delicate and weak voice was full of heartache, and the eyes were even red, as if they were a little white rabbit. Malcolm smiled, reached out and hugged the person in his arms, comforting her softly. "Is this little thing enough to make you shed golden beans? Be good and obedient, I won't abandon you. Don't think about comparing yourself to her. You are different, don't worry. I will definitely love you." The others couldn't help but tease when they saw this. "You can just be your little lover, and Best Actor Malcolm will definitely love you well." "That's right, after all, you are young and beautiful, and Uma can't compare to you." Speaking of which, Best Actor Malcolm, when you were in bed with Uma, could you still do it when you saw the scars all over her body? Listening to the laughter in my ears, my body couldn't stop shaking. My heart seemed to be tightly bound by a large net, making it hard for me to breathe. 2. All right, everyone, watch your language and stop talking nonsense. Also, I've said it before, don't make fun of Uma, and don't let me hear it again. Malcolm's voice was slightly deep, and he seemed a little unhappy. The others also tactfully changed the subject. "Best Actor Malcolm, when do you plan to get married?" Malcolm frowned, and after a long while, he lazily replied, "We'll see." "Really? Best Actor Malcolm, how many years has it been?" Uma was the youngest Triple Crown winner back then. What a pity. "Brother, I advise you be careful, don't let Uma find out." Malcolm replied nonchalantly, "Uma rarely goes out. You guys keep your mouths shut and don't spread rumors everywhere, and it won't reach her ears." After a pause, he continued, "Even if she knows, she won't make a fuss. She relies on me to support her now." The tone was affirmative. which made me a little want to laugh. "Malcolm, I don't want you to marry her." The young girl choked and continued to act coquettishly. "The one you love most is me. I don't want you to marry someone else. I don't want it." I stood a few steps away in the dim corner, watching the excitement that didn't belong to me. The man who once said he would love me for a lifetime. At this moment, he was coaxing a younger and more beautiful girl. But I didn't even want to go forward and question him. Turned and left, throwing the excitement that didn't belong to me behind me. At the age of 23, Malcolm cried in front of my bed, saying that he would love me for a lifetime and would never let me down. But his lifetime was only 5 short years. That day when Malcolm came back, I was already eating breakfast. He hugged the trophy and a large bouquet of red roses and pushed the door in. With excitement and doting on his face, he strode over and hugged me tightly. The force was so great that my chin was bumped painfully. "Wife, I did it," I realized our dream. As usual, I raised my hand and hugged him back, taking the flowers and trophies in his hand. Turned and placed it on the display cabinet next to the other 2 trophies. Looking back at him, his suit, shirt, and tie had all been changed. The smell on his body was clean and cold, the cedar scent I was familiar with. The deep affection in his eyes when he looked at me made me feel vulnerable for a moment. Seeing that I hadn't spoken for a long time, he approached and leaned over to look at me. "What's wrong? Wife, are you too happy? Or are you angry? Blame me for not coming back to share this joy with you right away. But I can't help it. The company held a celebration banquet, and it's not good for me not to attend." Suddenly, the scene of him coaxing others involuntarily flashed in my mind. I took a step back involuntarily, then lightly pulled the corners of my mouth. I was a little unresponsive. "Congratulations, Best Actor Malcolm." Malcolm didn't notice my strangeness and continued to say to himself, "I promise there won't be a next time. You know, I only want to celebrate with you. After all, I can have today's achievements. The person who should be thanked most is you." "Really?" Looking at him, I asked faintly. "Of course. When have I ever lied to you?" After speaking, he grabbed my shoulders with his big hands, and his forehead touched mine, his eyes sincere and warm, without any impurities. If it was before today, I would definitely believe him. "Wife, I brought you a gift." He took a small box from his suit pocket and handed it to me. It was a silk scarf, the color and pattern of which were obviously what young girls would like. I only glanced at it and put it aside. "Your dream has come true." And then I raised my eyes and looked at him, asking word by word. Malcolm obviously had a moment of stupid. Then he retreated unnaturally, untying his tie while saying, "I won't be joining the crew for the next month. I only have a few commercials to shoot, and the rest of the time I will be at home with you." After speaking, his eyes cautiously glanced at me. The sourness in my heart seemed to overflow at this moment. The person who once said that he would marry me when he won the Triple Crown Award, after all, forgot what he said. Or perhaps he didn't forget, but just didn't want to face it. His moment of stupid was the best proof. Looking at myself reflected in his pupils, I was unusually calm. Unexpectedly, outside the play, I could hide my sadness so tightly. "Okay," I responded with a smile. 3. Walking back to the dining table, I sat down and continued to eat the unfinished porridge. "Do you want to eat?" But as soon as he sat down, the phone in his pocket rang. The ringtone was not the one I was familiar with. I saw him frown, then hung up. But it soon rang again. He glanced at me, hesitated for a second, then hung up again. Immediately afterwards, a message notification sounded. He glanced at it lightly, then his brows instantly furrowed. "Wife, Brother Levi has something to discuss with me. I'll go out for a while. I'll be back in the afternoon." "Go ahead." Before he could finish speaking, I interrupted him. Perhaps my tone was too cold. Malcolm was obviously a little unresponsive, then immediately explained. "Never mind, I'll ask Brother Levi to come over." "Wife, don't be angry. I won't go anywhere today. I'll stay at home with you." "No need, you go ahead. Brother Levi must be looking for you for work matters. Work is more important. I have plenty of time to spend with you." After a few moments of struggle, Malcolm finally stood up. Before leaving, he did not forget to assure me, "Wife, I'll be back to accompany you soon." and I'll cook for you tonight." I hummed, watching his hurried departure. The pain in my heart seemed to have become numb. Brother Levi used to be my manager. After I retired from the circle, he took Malcolm. Brother Levi would discuss Malcolm's work with me. Malcolm used Brother Levi as an excuse. I don't know if he really forgot, or if he was too guilty. I took the porridge that had already cooled into the kitchen and poured it away, then turned and walked to the cloakroom to take out the wedding dress I had prepared for a long time and put it on. Looking at the person in the mirror, I realized later that I was crying. A pure white wedding dress, noble and elegant. The only flaw was that the wedding dress tightly wrapped the woman's perfect figure, without revealing a single bit, making this beauty a bit cramped. I raised my hand and wiped away the tears that had already cooled at the corners of my eyes. Taking out the scissors, I tore the wedding dress on my body bit by bit. The terrifying scars on my body were exposed without a doubt. From the right side of the neck to the calf, there was almost no complete place. I picked up my phone and called to make an appointment for a physical examination at the hospital. After getting the examination results, I breathed a sigh of relief. My body recovered very well, and I can have surgery soon. When I was just injured, my body functions were very poor, and I couldn't do plastic surgery at all. Later, my body gradually recovered, but Malcolm said that he couldn't bear to let me suffer this crime. Anyway, he wouldn't dislike me. I never mentioned it again. Now that I have received the doctor's affirmation, I feel that the turbid air stuck in my heart has dissipated for most of it. I couldn't help but have some faint expectations in my heart. Holding the report card and coming out, before I even walked out of the hall, I heard Malcolm's name. "Malcolm, do you think I won't leave scars?" "It would be too ugly if I leave scars. It will affect my acting." I stopped and looked at the two people not far away. Malcolm frowned, impatiently tugging at the tie on his chest. The girl beside him covered her forehead, her expression flustered. She was pulling his arm and begging for comfort. "This little thing, you can find a manager or assistant to accompany you. It's easy to be photographed with me." "I'm scared. If I leave scars, won't my career be over? I don't want to become an ugly monster like Uma. I can only hide at home and dare not see people, and my good career will be ruined." Malcolm heard the words and raised his hand to rub the girl's hair, comforting her. "Don't worry. I will definitely not let you leave scars. I can't bear it. Go in and get checked quickly. Malcolm, if I really leave scars, you won't abandon me, will you?" "No, don't worry." One sentence instantly made the girl's heart flutter. The girl walked into the clinic with the nurse, turning her head 3 times. When Malcolm turned around, I pretended to have just walked over. Seeing me, Malcolm seemed to be taken aback. Then he strode over and asked nervously, "Wife, why are you here?" "For." Malcolm held my shoulders, unsure if it was guilt or genuine concern for me. "Are you feeling unwell? Why didn't you call me?" As he spoke, he looked me up and down, his eyes filled with urgent concern. So much so that I almost couldn't tell if what I just heard and saw was my illusion. My hands and feet gradually turned cold. It seemed as if cold air was seeping out of the bones. Malcolm truly deserved to be a Triple Crown winner. He performed the deep affection so vividly, leaving no trace of flaw. "I'm fine. This is a cosmetic surgery hospital. What do you think I'm here for?" My words successfully changed Malcolm's expression. The look in his eyes became extremely complicated in an instant. "Uma, do you want to have the restorative surgery?" "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Otherwise you wouldn't have suffered this. I only want you to be well. No matter what you look like, I will love you. Why bother yourself? Besides, any surgery is risky, and I don't want you to take risks. If something happens to you, what will I do?" As he spoke, his whole expression was painful, and he hugged me tightly. I looked at him and asked softly, "Malcolm, do you really not mind?" He held me very tightly. "Of course, I can't love you enough. How can I dislike you? Don't always have such wild thoughts." I gently pushed him away and looked into his eyes. "Malcolm, I want to go out to work, but besides acting, I can't do anything else. Uma, you've been out of the circle for 5 years. Even if you come back now, it's different from before. Besides, if you have plastic surgery and come back, you will definitely be cyberbullied by public opinion, and I can't bear you to suffer." Are you blaming me for spending too little time with you lately? I'll talk to Brother Levi in a moment and ask him to help me turn down all the work later. And I'll stay home with you, okay? As he spoke, he took out his phone to call. I really wanted to laugh, but the corners of my mouth were stiff. My heart ached as if it were densely packed with countless needles. Just kidding. I'm here to pick up something for Vivian. Hearing this, Malcolm breathed a sigh of relief. Then what are you doing here? He touched my hair and replied without thinking. I'm here to discuss work with Levi brother. I blinked lightly, suppressing the mockery in my eyes. This is a plastic surgery hospital, and the popular actor comes to the plastic surgery hospital to discuss work? But I didn't expose him. On the way home, Malcolm's phone kept ringing. He hung up again and rang again and again. Finally, he simply turned off the phone. Brother Levi is getting worse and worse now. I have to worry about everything. I've told him so many times that I want to stay home with you, but he keeps calling. I think he doesn't want to do it anymore. I kept looking at the scenery outside the window and didn't answer. On the road, I encountered a group of internet celebrities filming short dramas. The familiar scenes. I seemed to see myself and Malcolm at the beginning. Uma, I'm going to be a movie star in the future. Okay, I know you've said it 800 times, hurry up. Have you memorized your lines? Don't worry, I memorized them last night. After all, this is the first time I've received a role with lines. I will definitely perform well. That's good. Let me take a look at my lines again. I'm a bit nervous. You only have 3 lines. Are you afraid you can't remember them? Uma, you're so stupid. 20-year-old Malcolm grinned and flicked my forehead hard. It hurt so much that my tears came out. Uma, don't cry. I was wrong, you can flick back. He stretched his neck and brought his forehead closer. Stay away from me. I don't want to talk to you. Uma, I was wrong, don't ignore me. I promise there won't be a next time. My vision blurred somehow. The sweetness of the past has now become a sharp knife wrapped in honey, stabbing into my heart. 5. The message notification sounds from the phone in the bag came one after another, pulling my thoughts back to reality. It was a message from an unknown number. Uma, he said your body is covered with ugly scars, which makes him completely uninterested. Every time he sees your body, he feels extremely disgusted. You are so ugly, no man has any appetite for you. How dare you pester him? Don't you usually look in the mirror? Ugly monster. Then there were a few ambiguous bed photos of the two. I suddenly laughed, even laughed out loud. Malcolm tilted his head and looked at me curiously. Wife, what's so happy? I turned off the phone and said casually, Vivian sent funny emoticons, urging me to send things to her quickly. Malcolm suddenly seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Do you want me to take you there? No need. I'll wait for her to come over at the coffee shop in front. You can go and do your work. After speaking, I prepared to get out of the car with my bag. Malcolm looked unhappy, turned to hug me. Can't you not go? I'm going to be jealous of Vivian. Isn't it good to stay home with me for a romantic time? He said, but he had already turned on the turn signal, ready to turn around. I pursed my lips and opened the door to get out of the car. We have plenty of time. Okay, then I won't care this time. Call me when you're done and I'll pick you up, he said as the car sped away. Looking at the black spot that quickly merged into the traffic, I silently hooked my lips. Such an obvious lie. Malcolm didn't even notice. Soon the phone notification sounded again. It was still a message from that number. I know who the other party is. Willow, a popular female idol who debuted through a talent show, has switched to the film and television industry in the past 2 years. She has a pure and lovely appearance, and her acting skills are mediocre. But her fans are very supportive. In the drama that Malcolm just won the award for, she played the younger sister of the heroine and had many scenes with Malcolm. Uma, did he abandon you? As long as I cry, he will be soft-hearted. The person he loves is me. Uma, do you still think you are the popular female star that everyone chases after? Don't you look at yourself now, you are a complete ugly monster, okay? An ugly monster like you should be curled up in a dark corner. You are still trying to seduce men even like this. You really don't know your place? I tell you, he is mine. Being a person should have self-awareness. You are not worthy of him. And don't try to tie him with responsibility and guilt. That will only make him more disgusted with you. He was very happy when he was with me. He accompanied me to the hospital for a checkup today, and I'm pregnant. He said let me give birth to it. I asked the doctor, and I'm pregnant with a boy. He said you will never have his child in your life. Does he rarely have sex with you? But every time he sees me, he is like a hungry wolf, and he can't get enough of it. This feeling, have you never experienced it? 6. Looking at the words on the phone, my whole body went numb. My body couldn't stop shaking, and even my lips were uncontrollably trembling. I didn't reply, but I saved screenshots of all the messages she sent. After doing this, the sourness in the corners of my eyes could no longer be suppressed. Perhaps Malcolm's acting skills were too good, or perhaps I trusted him too much. When the truth was revealed, I finally couldn't control my emotions. It turned out that the tenderness that moved me between the beds was so unbearable. Those pity and restraint that I thought were, in the end, not because of love. It's disgust. The sweetness that I thought all these years was just his deep affection performance. It's really hard for him. After sorting out my emotions, I called my best friend Vivian. Uma, why did you finally think of me? I thought you were planning to never interact with me again. Vivian, I want to come back. Will you come back to help me? What? Finally figured it out? Malcolm agreed. I met Vivian when I was still a nobody. When we first met, she was still an aloof young lady. Later, because I wanted to work hard in the entertainment industry, Vivian went to apply for a professional broker. According to her, the future international superstar Uma must be brought out by her ace broker Vivian. Later, she finally successfully became a well-known ace broker in the circle. But I was seriously injured to save Malcolm, and my career came to a standstill. Later, after my injury recovered, Vivian and brother Levi both advised me to get timely repairs so that I could make a comeback as soon as possible. But I chose to quit the circle because of Malcolm's reluctance to let me suffer the pain of plastic surgery. Since then, life has only revolved around him. Vivian was disappointed and said that I was the King Zhou of Shang, who was bewitched by beauty, and I would definitely regret it in the future. At that time, I turned a deaf ear to her words. After I quit the circle, Vivian chose to develop abroad. Thinking about it now, it is really ridiculous. I have been accustomed to relying on myself for everything since I was a child. But after growing up, I was easily bewitched by Malcolm's few words and gave up everything I had worked so hard for. For a time, my heart was filled with mixed feelings. I figured it out. I went to the hospital for a physical examination today, and the doctor said that I recovered very well and can arrange the surgery soon. As for Malcolm, I didn't tell him, and I didn't plan to tell him. Did something happen? Nothing. I just suddenly felt that the current life is quite boring, and I want to change the way. Did Malcolm cheat on you? I knew he was unreliable. Are you okay? I'll buy a ticket back home right away. My eyes were sore, and tears rolled down. I'm fine, don't worry. Wait until you arrange your affairs there before coming back. I'll wait for you. Okay, then you take good care of yourself. I'll help you vent your anger when I come back. Okay. 7. This must be the first time I've actively asked Malcolm for money. My money was basically used to pay the company's liquidated damages after I was injured. Malcolm's success today is also due to my efforts, so this money will be considered as my reward. After taking the money, we will be clear from now on. He smiled pleasantly on the other end of the phone. Didn't I give you a card? You can just swipe your card if you want to buy something. Is it not enough? I stubbornly replied. It's different. Okay, I'll transfer it to you now. Malcolm, I won't take your money for nothing. I also have a gift I want to give you. What gift? Malcolm's tone was full of curiosity. You'll know when the time comes. Malcolm smiled when he heard the words. Okay, I won't ask. I'll just wait patiently for the mysterious gift you prepared, okay? Yes, you will like it. After receiving the money, I immediately scheduled the first repair surgery. Then I began to pack my things. On the first day, I threw the small diamond ring that Malcolm gave me when he proposed to me in front of my bed into the trash can. On the second day, I returned all the things I had prepared for the wedding. On the third day, I sent the gifts that Malcolm gave me to the orphanage where Malcolm and I grew up. On the penultimate day, I burned all the photos of me and Malcolm together. During this month, Malcolm was not unaware of the changes in the house, but he didn't pay much attention. On the last day, I had breakfast with Malcolm as usual and sent him out. Before leaving, Malcolm still affectionately promised, "Uma, after I'm done with these few days, I'll stay home with you, okay? I'll cook for you every day then." I looked at him. The smile on the corner of my mouth was very faint. "It's okay. Work is important, go ahead. Don't keep Brother Levi waiting. Be good and wait for me at home." Malcolm gently kissed my forehead before reluctantly turning around, but soon hurried away. I looked at his leaving back, my thoughts drifting away. The boy who once warmed my hands with his chest in the winter. The man who knelt in front of my bed for a day and a night, begging me to marry him. Time flies, he is still handsome and dazzling. It is true that he once loved me. It is true that he was full of guilt towards me. Today's betrayal is also true. In the end, the guilt in his heart outweighed the love, causing him to choose to escape. I know that I can pretend that I don't know anything, but I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. I just want to be Uma again. The sound of the clock in the living room pulled my thoughts back. Looking at the bare branches downstairs, I sighed deeply. After cleaning up the kitchen, I went upstairs and took out the things I had tidied before. Finally, I glanced at the house where I had lived for 5 years and closed the door heavily. This house was bought with the reward I received for playing the heroine for the first time. At that time, I wanted to write the names of both of us on the property deed, but Malcolm refused. Now it's easier. This house is full of memories of me and Malcolm. I don't think I will ever come back. I first sent the information screenshots and breakup letter I had tidied before. Then I took the property certificate to the nearest real estate agency and asked them to help sell the house. After doing these things, I took a taxi to the coffee shop I used to go to. 8. Inside the cafe, Vivian wore a dark-colored motorcycle outfit, with short hair at the collarbone, looking handsome and sexy. As soon as we met, she gave me a big bear hug, and then gave me a charming wink. "How is it? Are you impressed by how handsome I am?" "Yes, I am." I couldn't help but smile. "TCH, you have good taste." Vivian rolled her eyes at me in disdain. "What exactly happened between you and Malcolm?" My thoughts were lost. I don't understand how we ended up like this today. When we first came out of the orphanage, I thought we would be together forever. Maybe it's because we don't love each other anymore. Regret it, right? I said he was unreliable, but you didn't believe it. Vivian was indignant and spoke up for me. "Yes, I regret it. I regret trusting him too much, believing that he would really love me for a lifetime. I regret locking myself in a world with only Malcolm after I was injured. Recently, I have also been thinking, if I had actively done the repair surgery and made a comeback in time, would we still have come to this point? It's good that you know how to stop the loss in time, and you didn't stubbornly go all the way. I'll introduce you to someone better later. My brother is very good. He is handsome and rich. And the most important thing is that he is dedicated and will never be unfaithful or flirt with other women. Would you like to consider him?" When I sat on the back seat of Vivian's motorcycle, the phone rang. It was Malcolm. I hesitated for a long time, but still pressed the call button, because I knew in my heart that this was our last call. "Wife, I'm sorry. I have a brand-sponsored cocktail party to attend tonight, and I can't go back to accompany you. As soon as the cocktail party is over, I will go home to accompany you, okay? Don't be angry." Malcolm's voice was full of annoyance and guilt. I held the phone and looked at the busy streets. There was a sense of emptiness and loneliness. The boy in the white shirt in my memory, at this moment, completely disappeared from my heart. I know I really don't love him anymore. Two people who have been together for 20 years have finally come to an end. The long silence made Malcolm on the other side a little uneasy. "Wife, what's wrong with you? Why don't you talk? If you don't want me to go, I'll." "It's okay. I just finished taking a shower. You go ahead. Vivian just asked me to have dinner together." Hearing this, Malcolm breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, then be careful when you go out, and go home early at night." "Okay." Malcolm hurriedly hung up the phone. Listening to the dial tone coming from the other end, my hand subconsciously touched my ring finger, but I didn't touch anything. The place where the ring used to be was now empty. I put the phone back in my bag and put on the helmet that Vivian handed me, hiding the moisture that slipped from the bottom of my eyes. 9. Malcolm stood by the window, smoking a cigarette, staring at the myriad lights outside. His heart was inexplicably uneasy. He took out his phone and opened the chat box with Uma. The message still stuck a few days ago. He skillfully pressed the familiar number, but stopped the moment he was about to dial. The night was getting deeper. Since Uma's injury, her health has not been very good, and her work and rest have been very regular. She should have gone to bed early at this point. Willow, wearing a white suspender pajamas, walked over from behind, gently wrapped her arms around Malcolm's waist. "Don't go back, stay with me, okay?" Malcolm turned around and touched her face. "How is your injury?" "The doctor said it's not very serious. Just let me rest for a few days." "Then you should stay at home and rest." "Then will you accompany me?" Willow coquettishly begged. "I'm not a doctor. It's useless to stay with you. Behave yourself these few days. Don't always look for me. I have to stay home with Uma." Malcolm frowned and pushed her away. Willow bit her lip, her eyes flushed. "Malcolm, I'm scared. I want you to stay with me." Malcolm irritably extinguished the cigarette but in his hand, his voice slightly angry. "I won't be here these days. Don't look for me if you have nothing to do." Willow couldn't help but want to cry again, but was afraid that Malcolm would find it annoying, so she could only endure it. After Malcolm finished speaking, he bypassed her and picked up his coat from the sofa to leave. "Then when will you come?" Just as Malcolm was about to step into the elevator, Willow, who had chased to the door, finally couldn't help but ask. "We'll see." Malcolm raised his hand to look at the watch on his hand and impatiently uttered a sentence. "I'm pregnant. Can you stay with me?" One sentence made both of them freeze in place. Malcolm looked back at Willow with a deep and complicated expression. After a long while, he heard his slightly cold voice ring. "Say it again." The tone was stern, making Willow couldn't help but shudder. I'm pregnant." Malcolm withdrew the foot that had stepped into the elevator and strode to Willow, grabbing the other's neck. "Willow, you know the consequences of lying." Willow was frightened by Malcolm's actions and didn't react for a while. Malcolm's words successfully pulled her back to her senses, and then her eyes flickered unnaturally for a moment. "I have done a checkup, and the B ultrasound is in my bag. Go get it aborted, go tomorrow." "Willow, don't try to play any tricks. If you don't listen, there will naturally be obedient people. Don't blame me for not telling you." After speaking, he ruthlessly threw away her hand and turned to leave. Willow watched him leave without looking back. Tears slid down her face, and her teeth ached from being bitten at some point. She didn't understand. She was clearly young and beautiful. Where was she inferior to that ugly monster Uma? Why can Uma have what she can't get? But she really didn't dare to offend Malcolm. After all, she was able to have today because of Malcolm. She couldn't bear to give up everything she had now. Thinking of this, her eyes were dyed with hatred. 10. Malcolm's car stopped downstairs. Looking at the dark windows, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger again. The moment he pushed open the door, a cold wind came in, turning on the lights in the living room. The empty room made Malcolm's unease even stronger. The photo of the two of them on the living room wall was gone. Uma's painting next to it was also missing, and the small ornaments she liked on the table were all gone. He seemed to realize something. His brows furrowed slightly, his expression unbelievable. Standing in front of the master bedroom, the door was tightly closed, but he seemed to have lost the courage to push this door open. Then he seemed to think of something. He hurriedly took out his phone and called Vivian. "Are you looking for Uma?" "I'm abroad. How could I ask her out?" One sentence made Malcolm successfully freeze in place. In his memory, something seemed to flash by. His face instantly turned pale as paper. The hand holding the phone trembled slightly because of too much force. Malcolm didn't know how he hung up the phone. It took him a long while to come back to his senses. Yes, Uma is so smart. How could he be so stupid and hold on to wishful thinking? Thinking that she knew nothing about his behavior? He repeatedly used Brother Levi as an excuse. Speaking of which, Brother Levi and Uma have a better relationship. After all, Brother Levi was willing to take over him because of Uma's strong recommendation. It turns out that Brother Levi and Vivian were all hints given by her, but he didn't even notice. Was she very disappointed? Malcolm irritably grabbed his hair a few times. Many things from the past suddenly came to mind. He and Uma grew up in an orphanage together. When he was a child, he was often bullied by other children in the kindergarten because of malnutrition. It was Uma who stood up to protect him. After they grew up, they chose to go to the crew together as extras. Although they were very tired every day, they were very happy at that time. During the most difficult times, they could only eat one bun a day. Every time, Uma said that she couldn't finish it and shared half of her share with him. Later, because of her excellent appearance and superb acting skills, Uma was selected by the director to play the heroine in her life for the first time. Since then, she became popular, and in the next 3 years, Uma's invitations continued. She quickly became the youngest and fastest-growing Triple Crown winner in the circle. At that time, he was still just a fledgling little character. Later, with Uma's help, he slowly got better. Just when he was looking forward to meeting Uma at the peak, an accident happened. At that time, he had just played a villainous male supporting role. It was also considered a little popular. Just because the role was not likable, a large number of brainless haters maliciously attacked him and even threatened him. At an event, someone splashed sulfuric acid on him. At the critical moment, it was Uma who rushed up and hugged him tightly. He was fine, but Uma was burned 70% of her body. I still remember when he saw Uma wrapped in gauze in the hospital. He vowed in his heart that in this life, no matter what, he would never let Uma down. He proposed to Uma in front of her bed. Uma disagreed, and he knelt for a day and a night before Uma agreed. Later, Uma retired from the circle to recuperate at home. She gave him all the resources she could give, including Brother Levi, the broker who brought her to become the queen. Even the script he is now winning the award for was chosen for him by Uma. He can have today's achievements, 80% of which are due to Uma. He doesn't understand how they ended up like this. He should be preparing for the wedding with Uma. When he opened Uma's room door, Malcolm's hands were trembling. The room was pitch black, and the bed was clean and tidy. The last glimmer of hope in my heart was shattered. Malcolm did not give up and pushed open the doors of other rooms, expecting to see that gentle figure, but the reality did not go as he wished. He threw himself into the sofa. After a long while, he picked up his phone again, but quickly stopped again. Since her injury, Uma has basically had no social interaction and has no other friends except for Vivian. She has nowhere to go. Malcolm tried to calm himself down. He believes that he has done a good job of hiding it. Perhaps Uma just heard some rumors and was temporarily angry, wanting to give him a lesson. She is no longer the Uma she used to be. Now she is a canary raised by him, and she will not last long without him. Uma, like him, is a person without a home. The two of them, from childhood to adulthood, are said to be lovers, but they are actually more like relatives, and she cannot leave him. Thinking this way, Malcolm felt a little more relieved. When Uma's anger subsides, she will come back by herself. After all, this house is Uma's only home. At worst, when she comes back, he will apologize to her. 11. On the second day after Uma left, Malcolm received a package early in the morning. When he saw what was inside, he was incredulous. They were some printed chat screenshots. Malcolm only glanced at it before crumpling the paper into a ball. Then he carefully opened the letter. "Malcolm, let's break up." Only the first sentence. It made Malcolm's eyes bloodshot, and he stared blankly at the paper for a long time before he came back to his senses. "Malcolm, I have put the house on the market through an agency. Please move out as soon as possible. I was injured because of you, and you paid the money, so we are clear from now on." The entire piece of paper only contained a few brief sentences, with no other words left. Not to mention a single question. The sourness in his heart seemed to spread to the bottom of his eyes. It must be Willow who leaked their relationship. At this moment, Malcolm was full of regret. It's all because of Willow, that damn woman. Thinking of this, he immediately rushed out of the house and went straight to Willow's residence. When she saw Malcolm standing at the door, Willow was overjoyed and rushed up to hug him, but he slapped her away, stunning her in place. Before she could react, Malcolm grabbed her neck. "I told you, don't provoke Uma, stay put. I will give you what you want, why don't you listen? It seems you have forgotten how you got everything you have now." Willow wanted to argue, but Malcolm threw her aside forcefully. "It seems that my indulgence has made your appetite bigger?" He threw the crumpled paper balls on Willow's face. After seeing the contents of the paper, Willow's face instantly turned pale, and she stammered to explain. "No, listen to my explanation. I just love you too much. Uma is not worthy of you. I am jealous." "She is not worthy of you, so you are worthy? Don't you even look at what you are? You are a lowly thing who is willing to do anything to become popular. You are only suitable to be a mistress. Do you really take those few words of comfort on the bed seriously?" Malcolm grabbed Willow's long hair and forced her to look him in the eye. Willow's eyes went dark from the pain, and she couldn't struggle for a while. Then she held the idea of breaking the pot and taunted him. "Yes, I am willing to do anything to become popular. What's wrong with that? Aren't you the same? You got to where you are today by relying on Uma's connections, but how did you treat Uma? Are you really going to marry Uma? Don't you also think that Uma is not worthy of you now? We are both the same kind of people, equally selfish, equally unscrupulous in order to achieve our goals." Malcolm's expression was Jungning, and he sternly stopped her. "Shut up. What? Have you been acting affectionate for too long that you can't even tell yourself apart? How much do you love Uma? Do you know it yourself? You don't want Uma to have the restorative surgery. Is it really because you can't bear her suffering, or do you not want Uma to get better? The current Uma is supported by you, which makes you feel that you are better than Uma. You don't want her to get better, and you don't want her to make a comeback. Once Uma makes a comeback, her brilliance will surely overshadow you. You are afraid. You just want her to look up to you. This is also why you came to me, right? Because I will look up to you and rely on you, which greatly satisfies your vanity." Malcolm's eyes widened. His eyes were bloodshot. He kicked Willow away and strode out the door. Behind him, Willow cried out in pain, followed by endless hysterical laughter. The laughter echoed for a long time and turned into a whimper. 12. I quickly underwent the first restorative surgery with Vivian's company. The surgery was very successful, and I went from being uneasy at the beginning to only having expectations. During this period, Vivian also began to prepare for my comeback. "Here, this is the script. You can take a look first, and you can raise any questions." Seeing the thick stack of scripts stuffed in my hand, I was a little surprised. Where did this come from? I haven't come back yet, so can the director send me a script? I wrote it for you. You choose one as your first work after your comeback, and it will definitely make you a hit. I leaned my head on Vivian's shoulder, listening to her talk about future plans. My eyes couldn't suppress the sourness. At the beginning, because of a word from me, Vivian, this aloof young lady, turned herself into a top broker. Now, because of another word from me, she gave up her career of several years of hard work abroad and came back to help me without hesitation. Not wanting Vivian to see my tears, I buried my head in the script. Okay, I will definitely prepare well. After that, I studied the script while preparing for the next repair surgery. Half a year later, on a sunny afternoon, the cicadas singing in the plane tree outside the window added a bit of tension to the originally quiet ward. Vivian stood by the bed, holding her breath, but did not forget to comfort me. "Don't worry, it will definitely be successful. The previous few times were very successful. Believe in yourself," she said, clenching her fists tightly. As the doctor unwrapped the bandages on my body, I subconsciously closed my eyes. Time seemed to pass for a long time. Uma, o piorais kikli. Vivian's scream broke the silence in the ward. Slowly opening my eyes, looking at myself in the mirror in Vivian's hand, I felt a little trance. The skin on the neck of the person in the mirror was smooth and delicate, and there was no trace of the previous scars. Following the neck down, the chest, waist, and legs were all flawless white. Tears poured down instantly. "What are you crying for? You should smile." Vivian wiped my tears while comforting me. Yeah, I'm just too happy. The surgery was very successful. The places where the scars were not deep have basically been completely repaired. Only the back, because it was the most severely injured, has a large and deep scar area, so there are still faint traces. The doctor on the side opened his mouth to remind me at the right time. On the white porcelain-like back, several flesh-pink marks crisscrossed. Do it again? Can it be repaired? Vivian asked unwillingly. I'm sorry, the current technology can only reach this level. The young doctor replied with an apologetic expression. It's already very good. I'm very satisfied, the back doesn't affect it. But this is not perfect. You won't be able to wear beautiful backless dresses in the future. Vivian pouted dissatisfiedly. How can there be perfect people? I rely on acting skills, on strength, not on my figure. What's wrong with a little scar? Yes, the great movie Queen Uma can become popular all over the country by relying on her acting skills. And she doesn't need to rely on her figure. Besides, why can't I wear a backless dress? With this little scar, won't it be invisible if I get a tattoo later? Then tattoo a phoenix, rebirth from nirvana, live towards the sun, and turn the tables against the wind. Okay. 13. I didn't expect that my first official meeting with Willow would be in this situation. At this time, it had been more than a year since I left Malcolm. At the opening ceremony of my new drama, I saw Willow. When our eyes met, we were both briefly stunned. Willow is the fourth female lead in the drama. I didn't feel much about this, except for being a little surprised at the beginning. During the subsequent filming, my scenes with Willow were not many, but every time I had a scene with her, I didn't know if she did it on purpose, or if her strength was limited. There would always be many NGs for no reason. The director was also helpless about this. After the filming, she stopped me and deliberately spoke in a sarcastic and weird way, saying some inexplicable things. The former Triple Crown winner is now planning to come back with this plastic surgery face? Every time I act with you, I feel very uncomfortable. I was too lazy to pay attention to her, but I couldn't avoid her. Uma, do you want to know why Malcolm chose me? Where did you lose to me? Willow looked at me mockingly with the corners of her mouth. I don't want to know. I have already broken up with Malcolm. You lost because you are older. You lost because you are not gentle enough, and you can't act coquettishly. Malcolm loves my coquettish look the most, Willow said to herself, while looking at me provocatively, with a victorious look. I only felt a little troubled about this, and had no other feelings. Later, under Vivian's repeated warnings, Willow finally restrained herself a lot. But her scenes with me were still full of problems. As the filming progressed, all the actors who had scenes with Willow complained that she was unprofessional. But Willow didn't care at all, and still didn't think about making progress. In a scene with Rain, she NG'd more than 20 times and still couldn't pass. She either forgot her lines or forgot her actions. The entire crew was helping her do it again and again. My anger that had been suppressed for a long time finally erupted. Willow, please be serious and focused. Everyone is helping you do it again and again. Don't you feel embarrassed? I didn't do it on purpose. I don't feel well today, and I just can't pass it. What can I do? If you put more effort into studying your acting skills, you won't have so many takes that can't pass. Uma, why do you say that I am not serious? Who do you think you are? I will not be a supporting role for the rest of my life. Don't look down on people. After speaking, she ran away crying. The next day, when I just arrived at the scene for makeup, Vivian told me that Willow had come to see me, saying that she wanted to apologize to me for yesterday's incident. And she also bought coffee and cakes for everyone in the group to apologize for yesterday's incident. I subconsciously didn't want to contact her. I always felt that with Willow's character, she wouldn't be so well behaved. If something is abnormal, there must be a demon. I asked Vivian to convey my message, accepting her apology. But when I walked out of the makeup room, Willow was still waiting outside my makeup car. When she saw me coming out, she changed her usual high-profile look and turned into a low-browed and obedient look, and began to apologize. She also enthusiastically handed over coffee and cakes. A trace of unease faintly crossed my heart. After all, I am not a newcomer who has just entered the industry. I am very clear about the set of smearing and rumors in the circle. Thank you, we're about to start work, let's go. I raised my hand to take it, and then handed it to the assistant behind me. Willow's apology came inexplicably, and I was always a little uneasy. But nothing happened in the subsequent filming. I secretly laughed at myself for being a petty person. 14. Half a year later, the drama topped the hot search list on the day it was broadcast. The number of views on that day directly broke the record. With Vivian's advance warm-up, I also officially announced my official comeback on Weibo. For a time, the entry actress Vivian announced her comeback was overwhelming. The artists I used to work with left messages to send their blessings. In the evening, when the familiar number jumped on the phone screen, I had a feeling of being in a different world. During the year of recuperation, I bought a new mobile phone and a new card. The old mobile phone was bought by Malcolm, and it was a couple's model with his. I didn't throw it away, but just threw it at the bottom of the drawer. I suddenly remembered that it had not been charged for a long time in the evening, and then I turned it out. As soon as it was charged and turned on, it immediately popped up with 999 plus missed calls and 99 plus unread messages. All from Malcolm. Watching the phone screen light up, and then go dark, and then light up again. I finally chose to answer. Malcolm's voice came from the other side of the phone, and I felt a little strange. Uma, is that you? Yes, it's me. Where did you go? There seemed to be some choking on the other end of the phone. Malcolm, you saw it, I'm fine now. Uma, can't we go back? I know I was wrong. Malcolm, we have already broken up. No, I didn't agree. I don't agree to break up. Uma, we have been dependent on each other for so many years. I know I was wrong. Let's get married right away. And you forgive me this time, okay? Malcolm, I want to go back to the orphanage to have a look. Will you accompany me back tomorrow? Malcolm agreed without hesitation. Okay. The next afternoon, under the big banyan tree at the gate of the orphanage, after a year, I saw Malcolm again. He came from a distance, walking hurriedly, overlapping with the figure of Malcolm, who was 18 years old, and running towards me with ice cream in my memory. In a year's time, he seemed to have changed, and he seemed to have not changed. As soon as he saw me, he directly strode forward and hugged me tightly in his arms. Uma, I know I was wrong, don't leave me, okay? After you left, I realized how much I love you. I raised my hand and hugged him back, then withdrew from his embrace. Let's go in and see the dean and the children. Uma, Malcolm wanted to say something more to me, but I turned and walked to the trunk, taking out the things I had prepared one by one. When I pushed open the familiar iron fence gate, the children in the yard all looked over curiously. Seeing me and Malcolm, the dean had a gratified smile on his face, holding my hand and talking nonstop. Good, very good. After so many years, you two are still together. Have you gotten married? Do you have children? Bring your children back to see me next time. Dean, we are all very good. How have you been these years? The dean warmly invited us to have dinner together. I refused. Few children who grew up in orphanages have happy and beautiful childhoods. I am no exception, so after leaving for so many years, I have never come back. After walking around with Malcolm along the footprints of our childhood, we left. 15. When it was time to say goodbye, I asked Malcolm, "Do you remember what we argued about for the first time?" A trace of confusion flashed across Malcolm's face, which soon turned pale. Obviously, he remembered. That was when we were in college, helping out at the orphanage during the summer vacation. At that time, we happened to meet some college students who came to volunteer. At that time, a female classmate kept coming over to chat with Malcolm. Either she needed help, or she had questions to ask. She even invited Malcolm to go out to see a movie together. And Malcolm never refused. Everyone could see that the girl obviously had a crush on Malcolm, but he didn't refuse. Because of this, we had our first argument, and I even broke up with him. After breaking up for a full half a year, Malcolm apologized and promised countless times before I reluctantly forgave him. Malcolm, you know, there is no word for forgiveness in my dictionary. Because of you, I wronged myself once, so there will never be a second time. Malcolm, the relationship between us has deteriorated a long time ago. Your love for me has become more of guilt. When you face me, the first thing you think of is responsibility. which is why Willow appeared. Malcolm tried hard to explain. I have already broken up with Willow. Without Willow, there will be others. Take care of yourself. Don't call me again in the future. After speaking, I got into the car and left. I saw Malcolm standing there for a long time from the rearview mirror. With the popularity of the drama, the popularity of my comeback is also getting higher and higher. The entry about Queen Uma directly topped the charts. But soon an entry Queen Uma bullied newcomers came into view, and within a few hours it had already topped the list. Clicking on the title, it was actually the scene of me scolding Willow. There were also scenes of Willow waiting outside my makeup car for 2 hours, and later Willow apologizing, and me casually handing the coffee and cake Willow handed over to the little assistant. The video was edited, cutting off the beginning and the end, and the sound was very small throughout. Only my few sentences scolding Willow could be heard a little because the sound was loud. The comments section below the video was soon filled with scolding. All of them said that I relied on my qualifications to bully newcomers, and that my character was worrying. Some even asked me to publicly apologize to Willow, otherwise they would abandon the drama. Willow's fans directly rushed to my account. Seeing the hot search, my previous doubts were finally resolved. It turns out that it's not that there is no action, but that the time has not come. I am not too surprised about this. Things fermented very quickly. Willow herself finally pretended to know about it after the incident fermented for several days, and released a video to clarify for me. But the words were vague, and the expression was grudging. Anyone who saw it would think that her apology was a forced compromise. Her fans were even more out of control, and some even directly doxed photos of me when I was injured and undergoing restorative surgery, saying that I am a plastic surgery monster with a paralyzed face. Some even directly complained to the platform, asking to stop broadcasting and remove the drama. Vivian was so angry that she only scolded Willow for being despicable. The script of this drama was written by Vivian, and as my comeback work, Vivian attached great importance to it from the early preparation to the midterm shooting and the later after sales. Willow's disruption obviously not only affected me, but also had a considerable impact on the drama. Many actors in the same crew came out to speak for me and clarify, but Willow's fans still didn't buy it, and they all thought that the entire crew was bullying Willow and bullying her as a newcomer. Finally, when the incident fermented more and more, the director team released the complete behind-the-scenes footage. The public opinion quickly turned to one side, and Willow was finally hit by the bullet she shot herself. The entire network was scolding Willow for her poor acting skills and bad character. Some even had private fans sending blades to Willow. Under pressure, Willow once again released a video to publicly apologize. But with the previous example, not many people bought it. Willow was blacklisted by the entire network for a time, and all the work she had was gone. She was directly Snow-Tibetan by the company, and I, with this comeback drama, was once again nominated for Best Actress at the end of the year. At the awards ceremony, when the host called Uma, I didn't react. Standing in the spotlight, holding the trophy, I felt a lot of emotions for a while. But fortunately, after going through thousands of sales, I returned with radiance. Malcolm, sitting in the audience, closed his eyes painfully, watching such a dazzling Uma. He finally lost the Uma who loved him wholeheartedly.